Hello and welcome. We're live from Royal Sonesta in San Juan, Puerto Rico, in the 37th annual WBO convention. And we've done the whole week. We've brought the best, the most knowledgeable, the most interesting, and obviously controversy never fails. Today is the last day of the convention, and we could not leave San Juan, Puerto Rico without talking to Jack Reese. Perhaps our hero, the third man in the ring, establishing so many new parameters and teaching us so much about that very difficult position. Ricardo Sales with me always as my partner in crime. But Jack, thank you for joining us. It's such an honor.
The honor is mine. It's a pleasure to be interviewed by you guys, and really an honor.
Jack, we were talking behind the scenes, behind the camera, and we learned so much from you guys. We really do. Every time we get a chance to talk to you guys, and everything that you were explaining, and you have to explain to the viewers here in this podcast how the referee works inside the rings.
Claudia asked the question, and what I believe boxing refereeing is the art of being invisible while managing a really violent affair. So we're not supposed to be part of the action. We're never supposed to be seen except when we have to make an intervention or a few different times, such as the end of the round. Other than that, we're supposed to be out of the scene. So it's all your mindset and all the way you look at it that'll give you that advantage to be that way.
But you gave us a beautiful metaphor that not only visually, but obviously in terms of context, gives us a very clear idea of what it is and what it is not to be a referee.
I was waiting for you guys to ask the question instead of
Yes.
just rambling on. So if I had to give an analogy between what a referee is and another profession, clearly you're an orchestra leader. You're the guy that in the beginning, people see you, maybe applaud for you, and you're standing and your back is facing them and they're looking right at you. But as soon as the music plays, they forget you're there. And that's the same thing with a referee. Once that bell rings, it's about the fighters. You're out of the way, and all you're doing is gently conducting that action.
How many years you've been doing a referee, and how you started?
Respectfully.
No, of course, but people want to know. I want to know.
This is my 26th year as a pro referee. And how I got started in boxing, or how I got started in refereeing.
Are you starting in refereeing and boxing? Yeah.
Okay, so I always wanted to be a boxing referee. Listen, I used to do some fighting as an amateur, and I lacked talent, so I had to leave the sport and get a job and do all that stuff. But I always loved boxing and wanted to do something with it. When I was 30 years old, I started thinking about becoming a referee, and I talked myself out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know anybody. How am I going to do this? And it took me a few years, and I finally talked to my wife, Josephine, and I said, I'd really like to pursue it. And I started calling the California Athletic Commission, and I was very fortunate. The timing was right. In 1997, they organized a class because the officials were getting old at the time. Marty Denkin, Lou Filippo, and guys like that. And they had a professionally organized class, and I was in it. 108 people started, and 8 made it.
Wow. And we're talking about, I'm sorry to interrupt and interject, just to, there might be people that are watching that don't understand what it is to be at this level for 26 years. I mean, most referees at your caliber, they're either done, exhausted, tired, but not only are you still very up and going and in the middle of the ring, in the middle of the action, but also imparting your knowledge to the younger community coming into refereeing.
Absolutely. I was a firefighter in the city of Los Angeles for 31 years. And the culture we grew up in was we help each other. We teach the new guys. I couldn't have survived without the mentorship of the guys I worked with. I would have probably fallen through a burning roof, or I would have, gotten killed. And we got to do the same thing. We got to pass the knowledge on. And my personal attitude is what I learned on the fire department. When I leave, I should leave this a better place because I was here. And that's what my goal is, to pass on all the mistakes that I've made, or all the things I've seen that could be done different or better.
So after so many years refereeing, how many world title fights have you done?
I don't know.
You don't keep count?
No, not yet. Maybe when I'm gone, but I know it's over 100, but I just don't know the exact number. And the amount of fights I've done, because I was asked and we looked it up. There's only one guy in the United States that has more fights than me. I've done over 1,150 fights, pro fights, as a ref.
Wow. Again, going back to 26 years, respectfully, We come from the era of, the Joe Cortezes of the world, and
Marty Denkin, we
yes,
did a
in
lot of fights.
California, a
Yeah,
lot of them.
yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And that's where we grew up in the world of boxing. So to sustain that and to be able to make, because we've seen the changes of the attitude of the referee, not attitude, but because of the flying hours, and obviously we now understand more about the sport. We are more aware of the highs and lows of a fighter during a fight, during a round. And this is your job constantly, being able to not only see if there's a low blow, a punch, or but to be able to see the fighter and say, I'm not quite sure you're there yet. Let me save you from yourself.
You're watching the deterioration from when they were at their best. When they get finished their training, they take off sparring for the last week or 5 or 6 days.
Mhm.
They rest their body, they cut weight, they get on a scale, and then they walk in that ring. They're at their best. They're at the top of their training. That's the baseline we use as a referee. I watch them take damage and deteriorate and fall off of that. And when I get to a point where when they get to a point where they can no longer intelligently defend themselves, or sometimes they're trying their hardest, but they can't mathematically win. We're in the 8th round. They lost all 8 rounds. They're taking punishment. There comes a time when we have to step in and save them from themselves.
Especially when you step in, there's a big chance that you can get hit. Have you ever get hit?
Yeah, I've been hit.
For real?
Yeah, Andre Ward and Edwin Rodriguez had a really spirited fight. They legitimately hated each other at the time, and a lot of antics in the beginning of the fight. First 4 rounds were really ugly, and they got into a punching wrestling match. And I said stop. They wouldn't stop, so I went in to physically pull them apart. And Rodriguez got me with a left hook, but I didn't go down.
Ah,
You took it like a champ.
yeah, nice chin. So
Oh.
hey, maybe you just quit too soon.
No,
You were looking
no.
to be a fighter. You
No.
quit a little too soon, maybe.
My nickname when I was fighting was Canvas Ass. So believe me, no, I quit at a good time.
And we've always talked about being in that position. It's always in the limelight, and a lot of fans, God bless them, they love the sport, they want to see good fights, but they really don't understand how close you are to the action, and sometimes you got to take split-second decisions, and a lot of fans might not agree with it. How do you handle that pressure?
You guys are helping. Like, this is why we invited you down to that solo arbiter training, or anytime we're at a convention, please come in to the training. The world has changed. In the old days, if a referee stopped the fight, all he had to do was say, Marty and those guys, I've seen enough. That's it. Nobody questioned him. Now, every person in the arena has a cell phone. There's 16 cameras flying, and we are held way more accountable than ever. We have to articulate and be able to explain to everybody what our decisions were. More importantly, we try to set the call up. In other words, we'll give warnings, or we'll give points before we take points. We don't do it silently. We let everybody know. Oh, sorry. I'm
okay.
so sorry. We tell the fighter, keep it up.
Keep it up.
So you guys commentate and see. The fighter's getting a warning for a low blow, second warning. By the time we take the point, you guys already knew it was coming, and because we've educated you with our mechanics, so there's no surprises. Sometimes we can't do that. That's what we try to do, sell the call. And I don't mean in a negative way. I mean, educate the crowd. It's called mechanics. Another great example, and I hope I'm not rambling.
No, of course not.
No.
So you're in the last row of the arena, okay? And something happens and a fighter goes down. The referee has to take an action every time the fighter hits the canvas with anything other than the soles of his feet, to let the people in the stands know what is it? What is it? So on a knockdown, we point to the ground and we say down, so the guy in the last row knows. And if it's not a knockdown, we go no knockdown, and we go slip. Nobody's got any questions. The fan's not going, they're not confused.
What happened?
Yeah. We try to use our mechanics to take the confusion out of what's going on.
We were at our event, the Night of Champions, and for the WBO
Last night in Humacao.
Right.
Right.
And we had an instance that was kind of like questionable. Low blows will forever be low blows. We've had this conversation, and Jack was the one that was very clear to me in both Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, crest to crest, crest to crest, anything below the crest to crest, is a low blow.
Exactly.
Anything above, see, I learned.
You did.
And then one of the things that I appreciated is he explained to managers, promoters, you want to avoid issues, the waistband has a different color and it makes it easier for everybody to see a clear low blow.
But sometimes, I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you,
go ahead.
Claudia. Sometimes referee says that the belt, it's a low blow. Okay?
I'll explain. So over the years, it got convoluted. It started out as the fighters used to wear trunks that stopped right at the top of the
Iliac
pelvic
crest.
pelvic girdle,
Mhm.
what Claudia's talking about. But styles have changed, and now you got guys like, and I love the guy,
Yeah.
Fernando Vargas' son has an 8-inch waistband with advertising. So his waistband comes up to here.
Right.
And then instead of being the waistband, some people say it's the navel. It's not the navel. So the key is having the fighter, you got to be able to see his belly button when he comes in the ring. And if you can't, you establish the waistline during the centering instructions. You touch the fighter, you say, this is the point where there's going to be a low blow. So now you guys know. And if people screaming low blow, you guys go, no. They established it in the beginning of the fight. It's not a low blow. And if the punch is right on the line,
Uh-huh.
it's fair. It's like tennis. A tennis ball hits the line, it's fair.
It's fair.
But in football, if a guy touches the line with his feet, he's out of bounds. Boxing, a punch on the top of the hip is fair.
Oh.
There was a case in the specific fight of Alexander Usyk, Daniel Dubois, right? Where they declared that it was a low blow. They said it was a low blow, but in my opinion, it wasn't. What do you think about that one?
So my job isn't to talk about another referee,
Right.
But what Claudia was saying, I can explain very
Yeah.
quickly. So, can I
Go ahead, go ahead,
just
go
try
ahead.
to
So look,
We'll adjust.
stay close to the microphone. Yeah.
stand up?
Okay.
You're going to do this.
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
You remember? No, sit back there. You remember when we were kids? We played Simon Says.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Simon. Simon Says, put your hands on your hips. Okay. Now, Simon Says, take your first two fingers, slide it around, and touch them. Where's your belly button?
Up here.
Above it, right?
Above it, yeah.
You just define what the belt line is. Where do normal people wear their belt? Sitting on the top of the pelvic
Iliac
girdle.
crest.
So a punch that lands right here is legal. Here it is not. So now you guys can go back and look at that punch and see where it landed, and you determine for yourself if it was a low blow or not. How's that?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And moreover, we can establish it, we can decide, and us commentators, we have the luxury of instant replay.
Exactly.
That's great. That's true.
So I'm gonna add a little lemon to our position because it's so easy for us to go, well, that was a low blow, give me the other angle, and we have a whole bunch of angles, whereas we have instances when if the referee is moving in a certain position in a certain motion, you cannot see the action. It's inhuman. You cannot ask for a referee to be in two different spots at the same time because they have to stay in constant movement.
We are going to miss stuff. We are going to constantly miss stuff. And it's funny. There are wonderful, legitimate commentators. And then there are the ones that just destroy people to bring attention to themselves for the hits. Well, the way we do it now and the way what you guys are doing is identifying it, and it's getting better and better because they're starting to realize it. But the ones we love instant replay. Referees love instant replay because the bad commentators use it against you, but the good ones use it to support you.
Of course.
And I'll tell you what, I've made mistakes. We all miss things. And when instant replay fixes it and we get it right that night, nobody remembers the mistake. They just care and they're happy we got it right.
So you're in favor to continue using the bar, the video replay.
I wish everyone would use it. I wish it would be mandatory everywhere because the crowd is forgiving, very forgiving when we get it right that night. Look, we have this saying, you take care of business Saturday night, or the commission's going to have to take care of the business for you on Monday morning.
Exactly.
The phone's going to be ringing, protest, and all that stuff. So instant replay, I support it, and really the top officials will tell you the same thing.
And if it's been implemented in baseball and football and tennis, why are we that much different?
May I interject?
Of course.
The ABC has now recommended that all commissions do it. Nevada, California, New York just instituted it. So it's starting to get spread out, and people will start adopting it. Now that the ABC has asked, Association of Boxing Commissions has said, use instant replay. It's better for the sport.
Agreed, 100%.
Precisely yesterday here at the WBO and the convention, you guys had the class at the gym, right?
At Ivan
Yeah.
Calderon.
Yeah. How was it?
It was great. You know what it was like? It was like a 12-round championship fight with a lot of difficulty, but we got through it. It was a big concrete building with a lot of people in it.
Very hot.
But we ran all the referees through a 3-hour presentation and then put them in the ring. Ivan Calderon is unbelievable. He was so gracious to us, and he had himself and 3 other fighters working 2 rings, and we were rotating the referees through the scenarios. We had the boxers doing scenarios, and the refs didn't know what was coming. And then we put the next guy in, and we have someone else critiquing and teaching the person who just got out of the ring. So it was great.
And thank you so much. I am so honored that we take this time to share with you, and that you have the patience to deal with us commentators, asking the questions, just trying to, first of all, make sure that we're keeping the sport alive, our fighters safe, and of course, the credibility in the up and up.
Every time you guys educate the fans on what's fair, what's not, what's right, what's wrong, the sport gets better. So I'm going to informally invite you to the next time we do our sole arbiter training, and any other legitimate commentator, writer for boxing, please, they can come as our guest. 3-day course, usually in Las Vegas, and it'll give you a totally different mindset at looking at what we do.
Exactly.
We have Josefina's number. Josefina is Jack's beautiful wife, and she already said, "Listen, you're the first one on my list. You better not cancel this time. I promise I won't." Jack, thank you so much. Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
Jack, Josefina, she's Colombian and Cuban, right?
No,
No,
she's
Puerto Rican,
Puerto Rican,
and
Puerto
Mexican.
and Mexican.
And Mexico. Oh my God, I got completely
we
different
got,
countries.
we got married here in her father's backyard 41 years ago. We're going to go visit him now for the rest of the week.
Okay.
Fantastic. I thank you for taking your
Oh my
time.
God,
I know you
thank
were
you,
getting
Jack,
done.
thank you very much.
So,
Thank
of
you very
course,
much.
keep us in the list, and we're going to go for a short break because we need to embrace Jack and say thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to come back with more information. This time, we're going to talk about judging. How is that for a treat? We'll be right back.
I wonder.
And we're back right here, still live from Royal Sonesta from San Juan, Puerto Rico on the 37th WBO annual convention. And we have Steve Weisel with us. He's the man to go to when we're talking about judges. But before we go anywhere else, I want to just take a quick look of what's going on in Querube Ballroom. Today was the General Assembly and voting for the new heads of the different regions, but moreover, the voting for the official president of the WBO. This is going on right now, live. His ballot was actually turned in early this morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're waiting for the official
For the
results.
official results.
But based on everything we know, the trajectory, his path with the WBO, he has been unofficially looked upon with very kind eyes by most, if not all, the members. And I believe we are now seeing as the result has come on. And I think Paco Alcárcel is mentioning
That Gustavo Oliveira.
that Gustavo Oliveira is taking over as president, and he is stepping down 30 some odd years, 32 years in the world of boxing. He's been the head for the last 15 of the WBO. And this is the moment where Gustavo Oliveira is officially taking over the presidency of the WBO. Congratulations to a very young man who's been with the organization for the last 10 years. He's lawyer by trade, as well as Paco.
Very, very well deserved for Gustavo. He's been with the WBO for many, many years, and now the new president, and the way he's looking for the future for this organization, it's amazing.
And the fact that he's been under Paco's wing all this time, he has been a fundamental part of the WBO coming not only into a higher standard, but also keeping up with the transparency and clarity that they are so used to being in the world of
Right.
boxing.
A little bit later, we're gonna have Gustavo here with us on the podcast, so we can talk about the future for the organization.
Amen to that. But
Yeah.
with no further ado, Steve Weisfeld, he's here. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
And of course, we're very excited. We were talking with Jack Reese on that very difficult position of being a referee, but even better, so Ricardo is one of our judges in the state of Florida, and we always get into like little spats of how to score a fight. But the truth of the matter is there's so much more than just numbers in the position of a judge. So can you help us? You've been imparting your knowledge and your experience for a while now, having these clinics as part of the ABCs. What is the most important subject that one has to keep in mind as a fan of a judge's position and their obligation?
Well, if you're a fan, you judge sometimes with your heart and sometimes with your ears. I mean, people are obviously listening to commentary, excellent commentary. But as a judge, we don't judge with our ears or our hearts. We judge with our minds and our eyes. So that's the big difference. And we also don't judge subjectively. We try to keep the subjectivity to a minimum. We have a mental computer, who's winning and by how much at all times. So that's not something that the average fan does. The average fan judge impressionistically, which I think may be good for the fan, but it's really an inauthentic way for the actual judge to judge.
Which is not easy because, just like you said, it's very subjective. Sometimes the fighter, when you're watching a fight or judging a fight, you got a different angle from the other judges.
You're 100% right. You have different angles. You can only score from your angle. And in our seminar, we said you cannot score a punch that you don't definitely know lands. So I could see the punch in the air. I could hear the crowd. I could see the sweat fly back. But unless I actually see the punch land, I can't score it. Now, that's not an excuse. I mean, if a judge should see, I would say close to 95% of punches that land, maybe more. We can't say we see every single punch that lands, but we have to get as close to 100% as possible. But you're right. I mean, we're from, and by the way, I show the same round from two different angles, and I get different results. So you're right, the angle could make a difference.
Yeah, a few years back, we were having this discussion with a referee, obviously a Hall of Famer, Joe Cortez. In many cases, he said the vantage point should be a little higher to give you a better perspective. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I've been doing this for for so many years. I'm used to the vantage point that I have, and sometimes we have to adjust. So on occasion we're sitting on a chair, on occasion we're on a stool. So it's not an exact science, but as long as we have a clear view through the ropes, I'm happy with that viewpoint.
We were just, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We just on that follow up. We were just talking to Jack.
Yeah.
About the instant replay.
Yes.
And how it's
video
really
replay, right.
yeah, and it helps the referee. How would you see this? Would it be a factor, a benefit for the judge to be able to see the instant replay?
Well, it's not really, I would say, a benefit of the judge to see instant replay. It's really a benefit of the fighters and to have instant replay, because there's always a debate between efficiency and fairness. And I'm going to go with fairness, especially in terms of the boxers. What happened? Was it a headbutt? Was it a punch? And that's come up pretty recently. I mean, this year in the Ortiz Boachuk fight in Las Vegas, the first round, the referee ruled it a slip, and then at the beginning of, I think it was the fifth round, the commission said to us that was actually a knockdown by Boachuk. Does that change your score? Which it did. So we all had new scores of 10-8 for Boachuk in that round. I mean, it's also happened at Mohegan Sun. There was a fight, Yeast Solano versus Mikal Williams, and in the last round, and they have instant replay at Mohegan Sun too, and Mike Mazzulli said, no knockdown, no point deduction, score the round. So you have to be very quick. You have to know as a judge which jurisdictions have instant replay, because your score could change.
But then if you have that instant replay, you have to wait to see that replays. So most of the times, as soon as the round ends, you have to give your card to the referee.
Yes.
So you have to be really quick.
Well, just to be clear, we don't see the replay. The commission sees the replay, and they make the decision. Was it a knockdown? Was it a slip? Was it a legal punch? And most of the time, we don't give it to the referee. I mean, the example that I gave in Las Vegas was the exception. But most of the time, or sometimes the commission says, hold your cards until they look at the video.
Yeah, because I was. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Once you turn in your card, how are you going to bring it back so you can change the score?
But if the commission says you can change it because something happened on the round.
Yes.
Right.
As a matter of fact,
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We were just talking about Anthony's situation with La Bomba Gonzalez,
Right.
Back in Japan, where it was first said it was not it was a no decision.
No decision first.
Then it was overturned to a TKO. And it was the ref's decision at that point in time that it was a TKO. He was the first one to say, this is the way it ends. It goes to the commission. The commission says TKO. Then they overturn it to a no decision because, according to them, the fight has stopped because of the cut. And then they reviewed it a second time, and then they reverted back to a TKO. Right. My point is, there's so many people, checks and balances, that even though it was a couple of days later, I like the fact that somebody was able to say, hey, we got it wrong. It was a mistake. Let's make it right.
I agree 100%. There may be glitches in the implementation of the system, but at the end of the day, what's good for the fighter? I mean, it's best for the fighter that the right decision is made. And I want to get back to you, if I could, on what you said before about subjectivity. You're right. I mean, there's no mathematical formula that says that 4 light jabs equals 1 effective shot. But one of the good things about seminars like this is that, I put a round up and, I show it to the audience, and the audience gives me their feedback. Do they think that the fighter that landed the more punches won, or the fighter that landed fewer punches but the more effective punches? So that's why we sort of can gauge where we are in connection with our colleagues, and at the end of the day, have a discussion on what's fair for the fighter.
Right.
Because sometimes it's the fighter that lands more punches that should win the round. Sometimes it's the fighter that lands the more effective punches that wins the round. So that's why it's hard to talk about in the abstract, but when you see specific rounds and talk about it, then you could see where you are in terms of the other judges.
Right now we have that same system forever, pencil and paper.
Yeah.
Any chance we go digital in the future?
Well, there have been glitches in the system. I've done when you say digital, you mean
Like a
pressing
digital
buttons?
score.
Pressing button? No, put it on an iPad that you can send
Digital
from your
scoring.
iPad digital to the commission, and they have the scores tally already.
I've done that before, and sometimes the system doesn't work. And then we have the backup system with the pen and paper. So I don't think that there's any problem with the pen and paper method. The one thing where I've noticed a change over the years, in fact, very recently, is you've had a lot of jurisdictions like Nevada, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, where you don't give the scorecards to the referees at the end of the rounds. You give them to either somebody with the commission, you give them to an alternate judge, an alternate referee, because they want the referee to concentrate 100% on the fighters, as opposed to going around and collecting the cards. So that's one difference in terms of what we do in the last few years.
Right. Right now we still have the 10-point system. If you can change anything to make it better, what
Right.
would it be?
We've spent so much time. You're talking about the 10-point must system?
Correct.
I mean, we've spent so much time getting to the point of uniformity. I remember when I started watching boxing, we had the 5-point must system, a 10-point supplemental system, a round system. I think a 10-point must system is a good thing. It's good to have both uniformity and fairness for the boxer. But what I would change is just to educate, I think, the fans more that the 10-point must system is a round by round system, that each round is a separate fight. So when you hear under the 10-point must system that I might have a fight 100-90, I'm not saying that one fighter dominated the entire fight. It just so happens that fighter won each particular round by, it could have been the slimmest of margins, and I have it at the end 100-90. So the score at the end of the fight is not always indicative as to how close the fight is as a whole. We're not asked to give our opinion as to the fight as a whole. So to answer your question, I don't think we should change the 10-point must system. I think we should just try to educate the fans more on how the 10-point must system works.
We've had this conversation many times
Many
from
times,
the commentator's position, because the truth is the 10-9, though it's easy, it's clear, it's transparent, and it keeps everybody in the same system, it fails to show quote unquote the type of action we saw. But it's a fair system, and you go round by round, and we have this conversation constantly.
Correct.
With followers, with fans, because even though you scored it 10-9, it doesn't mean that it was either a landslide or a railroad. No, it could have been a toe-to-toe fight, like you just mentioned.
Well, you're 100% right. And it also doesn't always show the closeness of each particular round. And we teach in our seminars that in general, we should stay in our lane. For example, if there's no knockdown in a round, 96% of the time, it's a 10-9 round. It could be a 10-9 round that's close, 10-9 round that's moderate, 10-9 round that's decisive, but it's still a 10-9 round.
Yes.
So again, that doesn't show up in the final score. But that's the system we're given. Would it be more accurate to say, well, I could score it with decimals, that this is a 10-9-8 round, or 10 versus 9.2 round? That's more accurate, but it certainly is unwieldy, and it doesn't yield uniformity.
And
So
then the math at the end is going to be
that's
impossible.
another point. Yes, yeah, like unwieldy.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And then and if we're trying to do this in different countries, so what is a 9.3? What's the
Exactly.
equivalent of a 9.5?
So that's why I'm happy with the 10-point
I agree.
system.
Sometimes keep it simple.
Correct.
As difficult as it is, because we've had fights, we've seen fights, many fights that we go, man, that was such a close round. There was no knockdown. It's still 10-8. But at the end, you have, like you said, somebody swept every single round, but they were so close. And we get a whole lot of trolling.
Chatter, yes.
Right.
And it's how could you score it like that? I go,
How
because
can you
we
score
go
100,
round to round.
100 to 90, right?
And then they give me the, well, what are you going to do about it? I go, nothing, because this is the way we score fights. So again, ABCs, they've done so much for boxing at this point in time. Uh, is there anything that the fans, the commentators should know in terms of the judging, the respect, and the last word?
Well, I would say that over the last year, the ABC has put forth new guidelines that are followed, I believe, by all of the sanctioning bodies and most of the state commissions. And in those guidelines, I think there are at least two important ones that are worth mentioning. Changes in the guidelines. One is that there's no minimum. And again, these guidelines are subject to the state rules and regulations. But if you see a knockdown, score a knockdown. If there are 3 knockdowns in a round, why not score a 10-6? 4 knockdowns, which is obviously rarer, why not score a 10-5? It's not our job as the judges to keep anybody in the fight. And the way for the fighter to come back is to score 3 or 4 knockdowns the next round or subsequent
Or
round.
win
So,
by knockout, right?
yeah, that's right. And another thing is we also have a new guideline on knockdown, specifically when is around 10-9 with a knockdown. And what the guideline says is a knockdown is a 10-8 round. However, if the boxer who is knocked down otherwise wins the balance of the round, and by balance of the round I mean before and after the knockdown, decisively and dominantly hurting their opponent in the process, then instead of 10-8, it's 10-9. So I think that gives enough credence to the knockdown. Again, great majority of knockdown rounds are 10-8. But if the boxer wins the round dominantly, decisively hurting their opponent, then I think they should get the point back, and that's a 10-9 round. So that is pretty new, and I think that's fair for the fighters.
That's pretty
Agreed.
interesting.
We had a
Right.
situation where
Yeah.
it was a flash knockdown,
Okay.
but then, Tito Trinidad example, he would get knocked down, then he'd come up and destroy for the rest of the 2 minutes of the round. And we would still be stuck with the 10-8. Where in fact, this actually gives credit to both fighters, to both efforts. That's brilliant. So that's a new rule that we need to make sure we follow.
Definitely. And there's some rounds that they're being scored 10-10. It's very rare, but you can do that also, right? It's rare.
It is extremely rare. According to BoxRec in the United States last year, I don't know what they said this year, but they said 5 rounds were scored even in the entire United States last year. Now, years ago, you would have fights where I know there was one fight. There was a unification fight from 1971 where you had 26 even rounds scored.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, 26 even rounds. You had one judge scored 5 rounds even, one judge scored 6 rounds even, one judge scored all 15 rounds even, making it a total of 26 even rounds in a 15-round fight. Obviously, that's the extreme situation, but not. But
I'm trying to do that. What were they watching?
Well, the point is, that we're there to make a decision each and every round. The test is there any discernible action? And if there's not, then we go to who's controlling the action, who's the bull and who's the matador, who's the puppet and who's the puppeteer. So there's enough going on where we should make a decision, practically each and every round.
Right.
And to avoid that, that's why I'm glad we get more and more young men and women interested in coming into all these seminars. And before we let you go, because I know we're busy and we're closing up the whole convention, the amount of ladies coming into a position as judges, it's getting bigger, better, wider across the world. And I am glad to see that change. And obviously more women are coming to these seminars. What kind of percentage do you see of ladies joining the forces?
Well, I think you're right. I think it's more and more. I don't know the percentages, but I mean, when I started in New Jersey, there were I started actually in New Jersey and New York, and I remember, they had a lot of female judges in place already when I started, such as Carol Castellano and Eva Shane. So, I think it's terrific to be as inclusive as possible and get everybody involved.
Mhm. There was a lag there for a while. I'd say for like at least 15 years that it was those original ones, the
Right.
OGs,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it just kind of dwindled away as female boxing also dwindled away, and then we're getting this resurgence. And I'm glad to see more referees, more judges, and different commissioner positions
Agree.
in different states. And it's not only inclusive, but it's almost to the full point that it's even. So I'm glad to see that
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Good.
Stephen, thank you very much for being
Thank
with
you.
us here.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. We learned a lot. Thank you.
And we're looking forward. Are we going to get invited again to the ABCs for the referees and the judges?
Anytime.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you got a friend in us.
Thank you.
Yes.
You both do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you,
try. We're going to be going for a short break because they're breaking the assembly in the back. And we're trying to look for the new president and obviously honor our Paco Alcarce, friend of the house. Don't forget, we're right here in JABS WBO podcast, the convention edition. We'll be right back. And we are back y estamos de regreso aquí en la convención número 37 de la OMB. Y este es JABS, the podcast, la edición de la convención. Como siempre, Ricardo Celis, que hemos tenido muchos invitados.
Muchos invitados, hemos aprendido muchísimo realmente, Claudio. ¿Sí?
Y sería el colmo no tener al legendario Luis Pavón con nosotros, referí reconocido internacionalmente. Yo ya no quiero ni decir cuántas peleas has hecho en tu vida.
Bueno, me falta una pelea para llegar a 200 peleas de título mundial.
Una.
Tengo 199.
199.
Sí, tengo.
¿Pero ya tienes una en el schedule, en el calendario?
No, bueno, todavía no me ha dicho nadie todavía nada, pero espero terminarla antes que se termine este año.
2024 cerrando con 200 peleas internacionales
Wow,
a nivel mundial, de campeonato
mundial. Se dice fácil, pero yo llevo una vida con esto, porque yo empecé de árbitro a los 24 años. Y
ayer, Luisito, eso fue ayer.
Y mi primer título mundial lo hice a los 27. Y entonces es que ha sido algo raro, porque yo nunca fui boxeador. Y casi siempre los referees pues son boxeadores y después terminan siendo árbitros, jueces. Yo no, yo pues algo distinto, ¿no?
Pero ¿cómo entraste tú a este deporte, a llegar a ser referee?
Pues tengo, si me permite una pequeña historia.
Claro.
Yo siempre veía boxeo con un compañero de trabajo y le digo un día, oye, ¿por qué no nos metemos a esto de referee y juez? A esto le digo. A ver si algún día vamos a un centroamericano o unos panamericanos, pensando en pequeño, ¿no? Y él me dijo, verifícate. Y verifiqué, yo busqué en las páginas amarillas.
No.
Yo no conocía a nadie en el boxeo. En el camino la gente te ayuda.
Claro.
Pero yo no conocía a nadie en el boxeo. No, y busqué las páginas amarillas, busqué la Federación de Boxeo de Puerto Rico y ahí empecé. Y entonces después me metí en la comisión de boxeo en el 91 y en el 93 hice mi primer título mundial porque uno no podía ir y mandaron a otro y no podía ir y me dijeron, mira, aquí está este muchachito. Y me mandaron para una pelea y hice mi primer título mundial de juez, porque eso es otra cosa. Yo soy juez de campeonatos mundiales. Yo tengo, entre mis 199, tengo 37 peleas de campeonato mundial de juez.
De juez.
Porque antes, no sé por qué, pero creo que era que mandaban al nuevo con 2 de experiencia de juez para ir probándote y pues también pasaba y llevo 37 peleas de juez.
¿Qué es más difícil o más presión? ¿Ser juez de una pelea de campeonato mundial o ser referee?
Para mí ser juez, porque referee lo domino más. Yo siempre me pongo nervioso, no importa los años que lleve antes de empezar. Pero digo yo, hay de mí el día que no me preocupe por eso. Pero cuando ya me entro dentro del ring ya se me olvida y entonces manejo la pelea. Pero de juez se me pone un poco más difícil porque, pues no sé, me siento más libre cuando estoy de árbitro.
Pero obvio porque le has metido más horas de vuelo. Sí. Entonces ya es lo que consumes a diario.
Sí, sí.
Nosotros tuvimos la oportunidad de verte en la última función de MVP aquí en Puerto Rico y me pareció muy interesante porque obviamente no había pelea a título internacional, pero sí siempre se siente esa piquiña porque estabas en tu casa, o sea, sí. Es tu patio. Se referí aquí en Puerto Rico, donde el público sabe mucho de boxeo.
Mucho de boxeo.
Y ser referí en Estados Unidos o en cualquier lugar del mundo, ¿cuál es la diferencia?
A mí me da igual en ese sentido. Yo es el público y la gente a mí no me pone nerviosa.
Oh, ¿verdad?
No, a mí lo que me pone nervioso es fallar. O sea, yo no juego para segunda. O sea, yo no cometer errores, que los he cometido, me duele mucho y yo me preparo para no cometer errores. Y eso es lo que a mí siempre me preocupa antes de treparme al ring.
Pero Luis, somos humanos, todos cometemos errores. O sea, ustedes referees, los jueces, nosotros de comentaristas hemos cometido muchísimos errores también. La cosa es reconocerlos y mejorar, ir poco a poco.
Pues en los árbitros y los jueces siempre hay un código de que siempre estamos en negación de que no, yo eso lo superé. Cuando cometo errores lo digo. Tengo una anécdota, creo que fue con Roach, el 130.
Lamont Roach.
Yo hice una pelea en San Juan y me comí una caída. Estaba bien dudosa y me la comí. Y pues me chocó bastante. Y en la convención de la AMB, yo me disculpé con él.
Ah, mira.
Yo le dije, discúlpame, porque la pelea quedó empate.
Oh, mira. Esa caída era crucial.
Entonces, pero eso ya lo superé. Pues es más, eso me hace más libre ya. Así que pues...
Hablando hace rato con Jack Reese, él precisamente estaba comentando, por eso es tan importante la repetición instantánea, el ver los videos cuando cometes un error porque no puedes ver el ángulo que está el boxeador, ¿sí? ¿Te ayuda? ¿Te gusta la repetición instantánea?
Tiene que estar en el boxeo como en todos los deportes. Para mí cambió el deporte completo. La repetición. Ahora nos damos cuenta cuántas veces nos equivocamos. Porque sí, es necesario, de verdad que sí.
Yo creo que facilita no solo la función, sino también no cargas tanto el peso de siempre estar correcto porque tienes un aval o tienes un apoyo. Que eso en realidad,
claro.
Mucha gente lo ve como el enemigo, cuando en realidad si tienes un video que obviamente no tiene interés subjetivo en nada, sino más bien obviamente una imagen y es tu apoyo. Si me equivoqué, ahí está para corregirlo. Y si estoy bien, ahí está para ratificarlo.
El boxeo, la gente siempre tenemos mente arcaica. No
Sí.
queremos avanzar y hay que avanzar con esto. El deporte completo en honrón, el béisbol cambió. Están peleando con la zona de strike que a veces vemos que es más difícil, pero en el tenis la bola queda en la raya. O sea, ha cambiado al deporte y tenemos que avanzar con eso. Creo que sí.
El tener que estar lidiando con dos boxeadores que se quieren arrancar la cabeza, ¿alguna vez te han golpeado?
Sí, sí. Una vez aquí en Guaynabo, hice una pelea de Dani Popeye García, que tenía como 20 knockouts con la mano izquierda. Y era un muchacho del interior. Y habían peleado en la conferencia de prensa, en el pesaje. Y cuando llego en la comisión me dice, te va a tocar esa pelea, ten cuidado. Y te lo juro, estaban como dos gallos de pelea. Cuando suena la campana con unos locos. Y la segunda vez que intervengo, me metieron un gancho izquierda, pero aquí me lo puso en la punta de la quijada, que en mi vida yo había recibido un golpe como ese. Así que, pero faltó que yo creo que me dieran a mí para que se calmaran y lo pude calmar. Pero con el tiempo también uno aprende. Ya yo entro con la mano, veo los boxeadores cómo se comportan. A veces si están todos locos, déjalos unos segundos, que ellos se van a cansar. Porque si tratas de intervenir cuando ellos están, pues no te van a escuchar. Pues déjalos unos segundos a ver qué pasa y entonces ellos rápido van a bajar porque ese tren no lo aguanta.
No lo aguanta, es insostenible.
Y entonces uno pues con el tiempo aprende.
Me voy a remitir a una frase que dice mi pareja, el colmillo torcido. Eso viene
largo
con
y retorcido.
Largo y bueno, y el colmillo, ¿no? Estamos hablando
el colmillo es largo y retorcido. El colmillo.
Pero digo, eso precisamente viene con las horas de vuelo, o sea, no cualquiera dice, tengo 199 peleas de campeonato mundial, y cuando estamos hablando después de tanta experiencia, siguen viniendo a educar, a enseñar, me parece de suma importancia. Gente como tú, como Jack, como Steve, que vienen acá a dar no solo obviamente las reglas, sino sus experiencias personales, porque obviamente el deporte es deporte y va a pasar cosas que no esperábamos.
Mira, yo obviamente tengo mi familia viendo, pero yo vivo boxeo. Te lo juro, parece tonto. Si alguien se tropeza conmigo, yo me muevo como si me estuviéramos pensando en el ring. Te lo juro, es verdad. Entonces, yo hago sombra. El boxeador hace sombra. Sí. Yo practico en mi casa haciéndome peleas imaginarias. Yo practico en el ring cuando hay unas caídas. Si yo me sintiera mal, ¿qué yo tendría que hacer? Yo me hago cosas hipotéticas en mi mente todo el tiempo para ser mejor. Y pues por eso que sigo y voy a seguir así porque lo tengo aquí.
Convenciones como la que estamos en esos momentos de la Organización Mundial del Boxeo, tienen seminarios para jueces, tienen seminarios para doctores, tienen seminarios para referees. ¿Qué tanto les ayuda a ustedes este tipo de convenciones?
Bueno, por lo menos repasar. Entonces, yo repaso también antes, por si alguien me viene a preguntar. Entonces, en mi caso, pues te mantiene activo. Tú tienes que tener tu mente todo el tiempo. Y yo sé porque, pues honestamente, hay gente que me ve como referente y me preguntan, ¿y qué tú harías aquí? ¿Qué tú harías aquí? Entonces, pues, es bueno para eso. Y entonces siempre se aprende. Aunque sea repetitivo lo que digan, siempre se aprende. Porque si uno va positivo, siempre aprende algo. Siempre agarras algo de alguien o una frase que dijo, contra, mira. Y sí, se aprende.
Es que la joya no te busca a ti, tú buscas la joya.
Sí.
En todo este mar de conocimiento, tanto de promotores, manejadores, obviamente comisionados, referees, Me parece muy interesante que en estas discusiones es cuando uno dice, ah, mira, eso no, lo que nos pasó ahorita, que ya no, nosotros hemos hecho los cursos de jueces y una ley que la hemos seguido toda la vida porque es de 17.
Sí,
Cuando ya pasas de 17 ya no sigues contando. Y hoy Steve Weisman nos dijo, no, es que eso ya no es así.
sí, puede votar hasta 10-5. No
Hasta
llega
10 lo que
a
sea.
10-4 puede caer,
Sí.
sí.
Porque
Y-
anteriormente, perdón, Claudia,
Sí.
anteriormente, Luis, te recuerdas que era
Three
el límite
knockouts.
de 3 caídas.
Sí, lo que pasa es que todavía le queda en la AMB fuera de Estados Unidos y sus territorios y existen las 3 caídas y pues no puedes votar menos de 17, pero la suma te puede quedar menos de 17. Que eso también, yo se lo explico a la gente, tú no estás votando menos de 17, pero si el árbitro le quita un punto.
Exacto, ahí no hay nada, y
Ya,
eso no
hay-
se puede
la
quitar.
suma te queda 16, puede llegar hasta 15.
Pero una palabra que me pareció una frase muy importante que escuchamos, stay in your lane, quédate en tu carril, porque aquí hay muchas personas que están cuidando no solo el bienestar de los boxeadores, sino obviamente el bienestar del deporte y que todo esté claro. Entonces, estás tú, pero tú tienes el referente de tus jueces, tienes la referencia de tu comisión, y si cada uno hace su función al 100%, vamos a mitigar los errores. Siempre van a haber errores, pero ¿qué tan importante es para ti eso?
Es que nosotros nos debemos al boxeador.
Uh-huh.
Entonces sin ellos no existen ni tú ni yo. Como un comentarista, pues dedicarás a otra cosa, pero sí en el boxeador, y tú tienes que proteger eso, por encima del organismo, por encima de la comisión, por encima de todo el mundo, ¿sabes? Porque de él vivimos o de él trabajamos.
Claro, especialmente por eso muchos fanáticos piensan de que cuando el referee se equivoca, oh, es que lo hizo a propósito, sí está protegiendo a un boxeador, pero no es así.
No, hay mucha falacia, muchas cosas, y lo que pasa es que también puedes hacer 20 cosas. Yo llevo toda la vida y haces una y
haces una, exactamente.
Pero eso yo creo que es casi natural, es humana.
sí, claro,
porque
claro.
en todas las...
Y uno tiene que aprender a vivir con eso, así que...
Sí.
Y a entender que uno tiene que recordar que ha hecho 20 cosas buenas y que ese error no es una sentencia de vida, es simplemente un error. Y eso pasa, pero es tal vez el precio a pagar, especialmente con redes sociales. Luis, como ser el referí, el tercer hombre en ese entarimado, ¿cómo es la recepción del público hacia ti y tus funciones y tus decisiones?
A mí me respeta la gente. La gente, no sé, yo siento que sí, y además lo que yo diga, pues la gente lo toma como bueno y no dudan. Eso tú lo ganas con el tiempo. De mí yo sé que podrán decir que me equivoqué o algo así, pero o sea, eso yo lo sé. Que la gente no puede decir que o ladrón o lo que eso, porque eso te lo ganas con el tiempo.
Oye, Luis, la convención mundial de boxeo acaba de nombrar a Gustavo como el nuevo presidente. ¿Sí?
A Gustavo Olivieri.
¿Qué te deja el legado que dejó Paco y ahora con
primero,
Gustavo?
Si no hubiese existido Paco, la OMB no hubiese estado como está. Eso, y yo se lo he dicho personalmente a él. O sea, la gente que estaba antes no estaba adecuada a esta era del boxeo. Otra cosa buena que dice de Paco es que no se quiso quedar hasta que muriera. Bueno, tuvo 30 años, pero o sea, eso es lo que pasa con los presidentes y él pues se fue en plenitud también. Llevó a Gustavo a una escuelita, digo yo, porque él estaba mencionando que llevaba 10 años ya.
Sí.
Y uno, el tiempo pasa en el boxeo pasa muy rápido y no te das cuenta que ya van 10 años, claro. Pero lo fue educando. Así que es joven, si sigue esa misma línea, le auguro éxito y le tengo confianza, creo que sí.
Y más allá del legado a nivel boxístico, también el legado de persona, ¿no? Su claridad, su transparencia, que obviamente ahora es parte fundamental de la OMB, es un moto. Y yo creo que es muy importante porque nosotros siempre estamos hablando de lo que es claro, no deja dudas, no hace preguntas. Y cuando estamos hablando de la vida de los boxeadores, aquí se sabe que Paco ha hecho esto la prioridad. Y mantener todo abierto, los libros abiertos.
Y le ha cambiado, creo yo, la vida a muchos sitios pobres, haciendo los gimnasios.
Eso es verdad.
Sí, Sí, desprendidamente, ya eso lo tomó como parte de, y espero que Gustavo lo siga igual, en cuanto a cantidad de países que han hecho gimnasio, le han hecho el ring, le han hecho las donaciones, así que pues, muy bien.
Que eso es excelente. Luis, muchísimas gracias de verdad por haber estado con nosotros aquí en el JABS Podcast.
Bueno, un placer y espero después de las 200 volvamos a hablar.
Eso te iba a decir, cuando sepas de las 200, cuando ya te den la asignación, por favor, no, acuérdate de nosotros para celebrarte en grande. No se dice fácil.
No sé, y quiero hacer una nota. Llevo 200, voy a para 200 y nunca trabajo en Las Vegas ni en Nueva York.
¿Cómo?
Porque
¿Nunca?
no nos permiten. Y
¿Por
entonces, y ahora en Inglaterra igual. Mi última pelea en el Reino Unido como árbitro fue en el 2014. De Crawford cuando ganó a Ricky Byrne.
Pero espérate, ¿cómo que no te lo permiten?
Pero ¿por qué no te lo permiten?
El árbitro y el juez lo nombra el Estado. Tienes que vivir allá. A mí, cuando yo cumplí 50 años, me llamó Bob Bene, a mí y a Nelson Vázquez, que si nos queríamos mudar para allá. Y yo digo, hombre, yo tengo 50 años, mudarme a mí ahora para allá, mover toda mi familia, pues no fue el momento. Bueno, por algo Dios sabrá, porque nunca tuve esa oportunidad, pero es algo que quería que hacerle notar, porque a orgullo tengo que lo he logrado sin trabajar allí, sin necesitarlo.
Pero o sea, yo tenía entendido
que hay intercambios.
Sí, que hay intercambios. Tú puedes ser miembro de la Comisión de Nevada o de Nueva York, ¿sí? Pagando tu fee. ¿Sí?
No.
¿No?
No, ya eso ha cambiado bastante.
Sí.
Y ya incluso en muchos países igual. El árbitro lo nombra, bueno, porque vino desde Las Vegas, y el árbitro lo nombra la comisión y va por encima de los organismos.
Wow. Pero sí, yo tenía entendido porque Joe Cortés hizo eso con Russell Mora. Russell Mora se mudó
de Albuquerque.
De Albuquerque, New Mexico, se mudó a
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas para ser parte de la comisión.
Ahora ha ido cambiando un poquito porque le han ido dejando a Harvey Dog, que trabaja en los dos sitios, Nueva York y a Harvey Dog y a uno que es de Tom Taylor de California.
Tommy Taylor, que son precisamente, ellos son los que imparten el ABC de referees.
Sí.
Tommy Taylor con Jack Reese. Y Jack Reese ha trabajado en Las Vegas y en California. O sea que hay intercambios, pero sería bueno investigar un poquito más profundo porque me encantaría verte.
Indagar eso, claro.
Sí.
Porque imagínate, si no, ¿cuántas peleas de título mundial tendrías?
Y pues yo creo que hasta ellos mismos ponen un pie para que, porque va a venir de Bayamón, Puerto Rico, a quitarme lo mismo.
Pero espérate, recordemos que tú como boricua, imagínate tú en New York, en la Meca, en Madison Square Garden, donde Miguel Cotto disputó una gran cantidad de sus peleas. Tito Trinidad.
Espero no retirarme y no haberlo logrado, pero...
Lo vamos a ver. Eso se verá. Yo creo que va a pasar. Sí.
Lo tiramos al universo aquí, en este momento, en la convención número 37 de la OMB. Luis Pavón va a ir a New York, lo dije yo.
Amén.
Gracias por estar con nosotros.
Gracias,
vamos
Luis.
a una pausa, regresamos. Mientras tanto, seguimos viendo en pantalla cómo todos los boxeadores están haciendo su caso para los rankings. Con estas imágenes, nos vamos a una pausa, regresamos.